If you think Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point are basically the same place, that's just you're wrong. 20 minutes in either direction, here or there, can completely change what your daily life looks like. And today, I'm breaking down the biggest differences between all three cities: home prices and affordability. If you're looking at these three cities, price is usually the first thing people want to understand. All three come in below the national average, which is sitting closer to the mid-4s right now. That means your money stretches a lot further here than in places like Charlotte or Raleigh, or frankly, most major metros across the Southeast. High Point is the lowest entry point of the three. Median prices sit around $200,000, and you're getting more space, larger lots, and in many cases, some newer homes. And if your goal is to get the most for your budget, this is probably your best possibility. This is where you'll get the most house for the dollar out of the three for sure. Prices here have cooled off a bit compared to a couple of years ago, and they're not climbing as fast, which gives buyers more stability. You're not dealing with big jumps or trying to time the market that's moving incredibly fast. Winston-Salem sits in a similar range, but the pattern has been perhaps a little more steady. Home values have been moving up over the past year or so, which keeps things stable compared to other cities. And later on, I'll show you how different day-to-day life feels in these three cities, from walkable downtowns to quieter neighborhoods with a lot more space all around you. Now, things change a bit by neighborhood. Downtown and places like West End land in the low to mid 400s and up. Head east or south and you can still find homes in the mid 2s or slightly above that, and your options look very different depending on where you focus and how you want to live day to day. Greensboro comes in higher with median prices in the low to mid 3s. Homes in Greensboro are still taking a little bit longer to sell, and that extra time gives buyers more room to think. You're not rushing decisions, and you have a better shot at negotiating instead of competing in this incredibly fast-paced moving situation. All three give you a strong value compared to those bigger cities. The real decision comes down to what kind of home and what kind of area fits you. And that all depends on where you work and, frankly, you. If you're already thinking about making a move and want help figuring out where to land and which neighborhoods are worth your time, my contact information is in the description below. I work with people moving into the Triad all the time and can help you get a clear idea of what might make the most sense for you. All right, let's keep going. These three cities don't run on the same kind of jobs. Each one, frankly, has its own setup. Winston-Salem leans heavily into healthcare and has been growing faster lately. Around mid-2025, it was close to 2% year-over-year growth, while Greensboro was under 0.5% during that same stretch. A lot of that comes from healthcare. Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, employs around 19,000 to 20,000 people and runs the only Level 1 trauma center in Western North Carolina, along with a major cancer center. Novant Health is also a huge presence, as two large systems are operating right in the same market. You've also got companies like Truist, Wells Fargo, Hanes Brands, Krispy Kreme, and Reynolds America with a solid footprint right in the city. So, it's not just healthcare, but that's clearly the main driver here, especially with biotech and medical jobs growing alongside it. Then there's the Innovation Quarter. Over 330 acres of old tobacco buildings turned into research space, tech offices, and the downtown campus for Wake Forest's medical school. Back in 2009, the area was frankly pretty much empty. Now, it's one of the main places where people are getting better paying jobs in the city. Looking ahead, projections show that Winston-Salem area could add about 22,000 jobs by 2032, with healthcare leading that growth. And in a bit, I'll break down how connected these three cities actually are, because living in one and working in another is actually way more common than people think. Now, Greensboro moves a little differently. It hasn't grown too much as of recent, but the companies based there give you a great idea of how it can continue to grow over time. Honda Aircraft has its global headquarters right at the airport. And not far from there, you've got Volvo Trucks North America, based, frankly, right in the same area. Syngenta also is a big presence, and around Piedmont Triad International Airport, you'll see FedEx and a lot of other logistic-based companies built right there. Then you've got Cone Health, which is a big part of healthcare there in Greensboro. So instead of leaning heavily in one industry, Greensboro spreads things out more, from aerospace to logistics to healthcare. Greensboro has a lot being built and expanded right now. Last year, the city issued over 3,000 building permits and saw more than $1 billion in construction investment. Now, High Point is a slightly different setup. The job market here is smaller, and a lot of people end up commuting into Winston-Salem or Greensboro depending on what they do. It's still known as the furniture capital of the world, and High Point Market runs twice a year and brings in more than 75,000 people from over 100 countries. That alone drives billions of dollars in economic impact each year, with thousands of jobs tied to that industry across the region. That foundation is still there, but sales in the furniture sector were down earlier this year, so it's not just growing the same way right now. Some newer things are growing in the city as well, like High Point University expanding over the last few years. But the core of the job market is still tied to the furniture and manufacturing. So instead of everything moving in one direction, High Point has two things happening at once. The long-standing furniture industry is still a big part of the economy, just moving more slowly, and newer growth is starting to show up all around it. Which one fits you better depends a lot on where you work. And once you get past jobs, that's where the day-to-day feel of each city starts to stand out. On a regular day, just getting out of the house, grabbing food, and walking around is what makes these three cities incredibly different. Winston-Salem has the strongest downtown feel out of the three. If you're used to being in a city and you want to keep that feel, this is probably where you're going to want to be. The downtown area is built up, easy to walk, and actually quite active. Trade Street and 4th Street are two of the main streets downtown, with local restaurants, breweries, and spots you can just walk right into. On Saturdays, there's a farmer's market, and on the first Friday of each month, they block off the streets, and there's a gallery event that brings a ton of people out. Old Salem is a big part of what makes Winston-Salem feel the way it does. It's a preserved town from the 1700s, literally before America was America, built by the Moravians, right in the middle of the city. And it's still active. You can walk through it, spend time there, and even stop by Winkler Bakery, which is really popular and has been open since the late 1700s. That kind of history, still working day to day, is not something you're going to see in Greensboro or High Point. Arts show up in a big way too. UNCSA, University of North Carolina School of the Arts, brings in students who are into dance, film, music, and design, and its Stevens Center downtown has performances all year. Renolda House sits on a historic estate and hosts American art exhibits as well. You've also got local theater groups, the symphony, opera. There are always events going on around the city. Colleges shape the feel of the city as well. Wake Forest, which brings in major college sports and ACC football and basketball, so that whole game day vibe is very real. Winston-Salem State adds to the mix as well with history and strong health programs. If you're looking for something easy to do, the Dash play minor league baseball right downtown at Truist Stadium. It's an easy night out and quite inexpensive. Food leans more local here too. I actually joke that this is where Applebee's goes to die. A lot of independent spots, breweries, and places have built up over time. It's not the widest mix compared to bigger cities, but it has more character than places this size. Now, Greensboro is bigger and much more spread out. Downtown is in the middle of building up. New mixed-use and residential projects are going on, and the construction we mentioned earlier is starting to show up when you're actually there. It's moving in a clear direction, just not fully built out yet. If you're looking to see a big concert or a major show, Greensboro is where you go. First Horizon Coliseum holds over 20,000 people and brings in huge acts that usually, frankly, don't stop in cities this size. The International Civil Rights Center and the museum is also right here inside the original F.W. Woolworth building, and it's one of the most important landmarks in the city. Food stands out here too. You've got places like Green Valley Grill and Printworks Bistro. There's authentic Mexican spots and Asian fusion. There's more variety overall compared to Winston-Salem and High Point, especially ethnic foods. Colleges are also a big part of Greensboro. UNC Greensboro is here, NC-A&T with strong STEM programs, plus Bennett College and Guilford College. Speaking of that, I'll show you how schools and property taxes can vary a lot depending on the neighborhood, even within the same city. We'll get there in a minute. On the other hand, High Point is the quietest of the three, and that's exactly what a lot of people are looking for. Most of the year, it feels very residential. You've got more space, it's calmer, and the pace is slower. The one time that changes is during market weeks, when around 75 to 100,000 people come into the city and things pick up for a bit. Outside of that, it gets right back to that steady, laid-back feel. The HBU campus stands out right away. It's very well kept, with a lot of landscaping, clean buildings, and the locals, we might call it Country Club U. We mean it in a positive way. That campus has made a huge impact on the area all around it. You're also starting to see more artists move to High Point. Studio space is easier to find and more affordable, so people who need room to work, well, they've been heading there. A lot of the older commercial buildings give them that space, and it's a lot harder to find it in Winston or Greensboro at these prices. HBU has also been expanding in the arts program, which of course add to that. Another thing that people like is the train access. See, High Point does have an Amtrak stop, which serves Charlotte plus connections around the southeast. So if you travel and don't want to drive every single time, that's a solid option. Each one of these feels different once you're actually living in it. And a lot of it comes down to how you get around every day. See, a lot of people don't realize how close these three cities are. Getting from one to the other can be pretty darn quick. It takes about 30 minutes to get from Winston-Salem to Greensboro in normal traffic, which is air quoted traffic. High Point sits right in between. See, most commutes around the Triad average 20 to tops 30 minutes. So it's very doable to live in one city and work in another without feeling like it's a long drive. Where this really comes into play is direction. Where you're working, which way you're heading most days, and which city lines up better with that. See, Winston-Salem sits on the west side. So if your job is in Forsyth County, you're already close. If you're heading to Charlotte, it's about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes down I-40 and I-77. And if you need to get to the airport, it's about 25 to 35 minutes going east. Greensboro sits on the east side, which helps if you travel or spend time in Raleigh. PTI Airport is right there as well. So the drive is shorter if you're flying often. And if you go toward the Research Triangle from time to time, well, you're starting a lot closer. The Greensboro Urban Loop also made it easier to move across the city. High Point sits in the center, and that gives you flexibility. You're about 20 minutes to Winston-Salem and no more than 25 minutes to Greensboro, around 20 minutes to the airport. So if your work routine takes you in different directions, this location makes that easier. It's also got that Amtrak station we mentioned earlier. So you've got train options to Charlotte trips as well. These cities connect more like one area than separate places. Living in one and spending time in another is just part of how people move around here. Property taxes and schools are two things people usually get mixed up in when they're comparing these cities. A lot of buyers miss some key details when it comes to property taxes. In Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, the combined property tax rate is around $1.10 per $100 of assessed value. Guilford County, which covers both Greensboro and High Point, has been higher. So when you compare them side by side, Winston-Salem is coming in with a lower tax rate right now. But there's more behind that number. Forsyth County went through a full property reevaluation recently. Values went up and the rate was lowered. So even though that rate looks lower, people still ended up paying about 15 to 20% more than before. Guilford County is going through that same process right now in 2026. New property values have already gone out and a lot have come in higher. Just like in Forsyth County, 50, 60, maybe 70% higher. They haven't set the new tax rate yet, but it should come down once they finish this process, as Forsyth County did before. So if you're looking in Greensboro or High Point, it's a little unclear right now what your taxes will look like. That's why it helps to get a real estimate before you buy, instead of just going off the number you see online. Once both counties finish this process, the gap between them usually is going to shrink. For now, though, Winston-Salem has the lower rate. When it comes to schools, this is where averages don't tell you much. What really matters is the specific school and the exact area you're looking in. In Winston-Salem, Forsyth County schools have been improving over time, and graduation rates are in a very solid space. Schools like Reagan High out in Paughtown or Atkins High, which is a magnet high school, are usually some of the stronger ones. If schools are a big factor for you, the northern area, the north and west areas, Reagan and western areas around Clemens and West Forsyth, tend to be more consistent spots. There are also magnet and IB programs if you're looking for something more focused. Guilford County has some very strong individual options as well. The early college at Guilford ranked #1 in North Carolina and 31st nationally in the 2025 U.S. News ranking. The STEM early college at NC&T also stands out. Both are open by application to families across the county, which gives you more flexibility depending on what you're looking for and where you live. In High Point, the overall ratings do come in a little lower. Reviews and ratings platforms consistently puts the average on the lower end of the scale. There are still solid options, but they're a little more spread out, so where you buy definitely plays a bigger role. In Greensboro, school quality tends to follow the neighborhood more closely, with areas in the northwest near Guilford College having stronger track records. You can find good schools in all three cities. It just comes down to knowing exactly where to look. Choosing between these three cities comes down more to personality. The right one is the place you'd actually enjoy living day to day, not just the one that maybe looks best to you on paper. So if you're thinking about moving to any of these cities and trying to figure out which neighborhood fits you best, please reach out. Email me at sales@theginthergroup.com today. I work with buyers making this move every week, so I can give you a pretty good idea of where people end up and why. If you keep coming back to Winston-Salem after watching this, the video linked here breaks down 5 neighborhoods people move to the most, what prices look like, and what day-to-day life feels like in each one. I also share the area I'd personally choose myself. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.